If your website's not generating enough leads for you, then you're in luck, because in this video, I'm going to talk about 7 ways you can optimize your website for lead generation. G'day, Ben Futrell here, co-founder of Maximize Profit. We're all about helping you build the business you imagine. Now, if you imagine getting more qualified leads from your website, then I've got good news. I'm going to take you through 7 different ways that you can make sure that your website is optimized to generate you qualified leads. Now, the very first thing that I'm going to talk about is making sure that there are no small errors on your website. Now, this sounds like a no-brainer, but I know myself, I've been guilty of being, I guess, probably too quick to get things launched and haven't spent the time going through checking the detail. Besides the fact I don't have a high attention to detail, and so it can pay to have somebody else also look through your website. Just recently, I was sitting down with someone having a meeting talking about their marketing strategy. We were looking through their website, and I noticed that in the footer of their website, they still had placard text that was in Latin. And this is pretty typical of web developers. They'll use placard text that is Latin just to fill the areas up so you can see what they're going to look like, and then they'll change them later. Well, this particular website had that text sitting in that spot for years and nobody had ever noticed. Now, it's only a little thing, but that's just an example of what can happen if you don't spend some time going through and just double checking your website to make sure there's no silly little errors anywhere. Now, it doesn't just mean getting the text right or the spelling, but things like making sure links work, videos play, audio, if you've got downloadable PDFs, or if you've got opt-in forms where people have got to be able to subscribe to something. Make sure that everything on your website is working, because it's nothing more frustrating for a user of a website for things not to be working, but it's also their first impression in a lot of cases of your business. And if you're not giving people a good first impression, then you're going to be in trouble. Now, the second thing I want to make sure is that you have a really good, solid contact page on your website. One of the most visited pages on any website is the contact page. So make it really, really simple for people to be able to reach you. This is the whole idea of having a good website. And if you want to use it for lead generation, you want to make sure that you're very clear about how people can contact you for whatever it is that you do, whether it's supplying a quote, booking a meeting, or buying a product or service. Make it really simple for people to contact you. So on your contact page, include things like, if you want to visit us, here's our address, or here's how you find us. If you want to email us, fill in this form. If you want to call us, here's our phone number. If you want to SMS us, here's a text, a mobile number, whatever it might be that you want or your preference. You can even use things like Facebook Messenger as a contact option as well. A lot of people are doing that, but make sure that you do have a contact page and that it is really well structured so it is easy for any prospective customer to contact you. Now, the third thing that I'm going to talk about is another mistake I see quite often on people's websites, and that is that the navigation does not work properly. And there are things that you may have expected to have clicked through to something else that aren't working, and the links are broken. Now, this can quite often happen because you might make changes somewhere down the track. And for example, you might have had a page that has a link going to another page, and then you've decided to stop offering that product or service. And then you move that page, or you change the URL of that page, and then the old page no longer goes there. And that can be quite frustrating for somebody who's looking around your website. Put yourself in the user's shoes and just think about what experience you want them to have when they arrive on your website, and just make sure that all the links are working and that they all make sense. The last thing you want to do too, by the way, is when we're talking about links, if it's your main menu, don't overload people with a squillion different choices. I've seen this where they might have a drop-down menu from one of their main menu items, and it might have 20 things in there. And whilst you're thinking that's helpful for your customer, you're actually just overwhelming them with too much information. So really pull back on the amount of links that they can click on from the menu, and put those links into pages. So if they want to get into deeper information on a page, then they can start going on a bit of a journey as well. And that's going to make not only the user experience better, but it's also going to give you probably a better result with search engines, because search engines really like you to make sure all your links are working, and that the navigation of your website is user-friendly and nice and easy for people to do. And that way they're going to favor you when it comes to somebody searching for your product or service in a search engine, which is also another way to generate leads. Now, my fourth tip sort of goes along the same vein of understanding more about when people are searching for you, the fact that they will be using a search engine to find your website in a lot of cases, or they might click on the link in an email that you sent. A lot of people are using their mobile phones or a mobile device of some sort to access the internet. In fact, they're saying that the percentage of people now using mobile devices to surf the internet has increased dramatically over the last 3 years. And so you want to make sure your website is mobile friendly. Now, you may have heard of the word having a responsive website. If not, it's okay. But there is a tool online where you can put your URL in that simulates mobile devices or responsive devices or responsiveness of your website. And what a responsive website does is it responds to the different size screen. An easy way to check if your website is or isn't responsive is just open it up on your phone and see if it loads a bit differently. Having said that, some sites do have a mobile site and a desktop site, so I still recommend jumping onto the internet and just Google a responsive website tester or simulator, and just you'll find one there. They're all free. You put your URL in, you can pick phones, tablets, etc., and it will show you how your website will work. If you do minimize the web browser on your desktop, which is another way to do it, and your website, everything starts getting cut off rather than the text and pictures shrinking to fit, then your website is not going to work well on a mobile phone or a tablet. And it's really important in 2021 that you have your website working and optimized for mobile devices, just because of the sheer amount of traffic now searching on their phones and on tablets. And if you don't have your website optimized, the reality is that those visitors are going to go somewhere else where it is optimized. And so one of your competitors will definitely have this done. If you don't have it done, you will be missing out on that traffic. So make sure you get that sorted. All right, tip number 5 of my 7 ways to optimize your website for lead generation is to make sure that you have really clear calls to action. Now, one of the good things about a website, and when I remember websites first coming out many, many years ago, they were primarily just an electronic brochure where people could go and have a look at your brochure online. Now they are a very dynamic multimedia platform where you can really drive traffic to buy from you or to book an appointment or whatever it is that you want them to do. But you've got to make sure that you are really clear with people that visit your page, that you have calls to action that are extremely easy for them to understand and take action on. And I really recommend having 3 levels of call to action on your website, because some people are going to land on your website with high intent. They're ready to go. They're just choosing who to buy from. And so they're going to want to have a buy now button, get a quote, whatever it might be. Then you're going to have the next level down of those that are seriously considering your product or service, but they're not quite there, and they may need to be able to opt in for something else. Maybe it's a price guide, maybe it's a checklist, maybe it's a tool or resource that will help them. Maybe it's a quote, so they're not quite ready to buy, but they'll be able to get an obligation-free quote, whatever it might be. And then you've got the very low commitment of maybe something like a newsletter that you could have people opting in for. So it's really good to have a few different levels. Don't just have call now, because a lot of people won't be ready to make the call. Then they're not ready for that level of commitment. Make sure that your call to actions are very clear, but also cater for the different levels of intent of each of your visitors. So just think about who will be visiting your website, and if they're ready to buy, if they're not quite ready but want more information, or if they're just happen to land on your page and they're just interested in what you do. So just think about how you can make sure that all 3 of those groups have a call to action that will be suitable for them. Now, number 6 is another biggie that I see people making a mistake with all the time, and that is social media integration on their website. Quite often I will see developers will develop a website, they'll put the links through to social media, but those links will only go through to the main social media page, not yours. So for example, you might click on a Facebook link on somebody's website and it just goes to facebook.com. It doesn't actually go to the business page of that business. And this is a big mistake I see so many people making. I've even seen websites that still have Google Plus links on their webpage. Now, Google Plus has not been around for several years, and if you do have a Google Plus link on your website, then that just shows people that you have not been paying attention. You're certainly in the dark ages, and you're going to be sending them to something that doesn't exist anymore. So really important to make sure that all your social media integration is up to speed. The other thing to do is that Messenger now on Facebook, or the Facebook Messenger app, is a very, very popular tool, and we're seeing more and more websites use this tool as a way to communicate with customers on their website, and there's a huge benefit to it in my eyes. You can get other chat sort of tools that you can integrate on your website, but the Facebook Messenger tool means that if you're not there right then and there when they message you on the website, and then they go off and do something in their day and you message them maybe a couple of hours later, the likelihood is they're going to get the response to their question because they'll be using the Messenger app. So just make sure you've got good social media integration. On that same note, if you share content from your website, whether it's a blog post or something from one of your web pages, that all the descriptions of your titles and meta tag descriptions, that may be a bit jargony, but essentially in the back end of your site, you can type out descriptions and you can type out what's called meta tag descriptions, which is what will show up in social media when you share a link from your website. So you want to make sure all of that is set up correctly as well. So when you share something, it gets shared correctly. On the final note, when we're talking about social media and sharing, on each of your pieces of content, if you're running a blog, it's important that you do have a way for people to share that content easily, because that is going to get more and more people having a look at your website and your products and services. Now, my seventh and final tip is a big one, and that is making sure that you or your team are really well trained on how to add new content to your website. I've said a couple of tips ago that the difference between what a website was in the beginning and what it is now is that it used to be a very static electronic brochure. Now what it is a dynamic piece of multimedia marketing. And for those businesses that are not capitalizing on the fact that you can add new content as often as you like, you are missing out on being able to give your customers new content. You want to make sure that when they come back to your website after having visited it previously, that there is something else there for them to see. And the best way to do that is by making sure the blog on your website is enabled and that someone in your team or yourself know how to upload content on a regular basis. And I think this is so key for so many businesses. The other thing is you can update things when you get things like awards, or if there's new team members, if there's, you could have a news page where, a blog post could be about something going on in the industry or something in your business that's exciting. And by adding new content and refreshing the existing content on your website, you are telling Google that your website is up to date, and that will actually help them rank your website a little bit higher in the search engines, because they know if the customer is searching for your product or service, they want to give them the best experience possible. And if they know your website is always being updated with fresh content and that content is getting updated on a regular basis, that you're likely to be a good candidate for a good user experience, and that's going to help you with your rankings. So there you go, 7 ways to optimize your website to generate more leads for your business. Once again, I can't iterate enough how important it is to have a great website and have your website updated on a regular basis in 2021. It is definitely a lead generation strategy that you should have in your marketing plan. And if you don't, make sure that you do, and you'll find that you'll start to generate more leads for free. When I say for free, you sort of put the effort in, but rather than paid ads, this is the type of marketing that will go on and on forever and pay dividends over time.